Okay guys, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Now, fasten your seatbelts. Here we go. Okay guys, I'm back and it is Tuesday, October 29th, and it is 10:27 p.m. Eastern Time. We've got a lot of news. I know I always say that, but we really do. So let's get to it. But first, I want to thank a couple people. I want to thank Tim M. from Oregon. Thank you so much for your coffee donation. I really appreciate that, and it does help. And also Diane H. from Utah. She has donated before, and she's got 7 dogs and 3 black kitties. Wow. I don't know. That's a little bit much for me, but more power to her. And I hope, Diane, that you keep your black cats in for the for Halloween, because there are very sick people out there. So anyway, let's get into this. First, I want to play for you, and I did go through, and some of these things I'm going to save for later because I've got so much today. I had to tear myself away from news and searching news because I wanted to get to this before it was midnight. I'm sorry. I'm having to use the Cat Be Gone very early tonight. There we go. Sorry for that interruption, but it was a necessary interruption. Now we can continue. Okay, so let's get going. And also, I just want to throw out there, hello, Janice. You know who you are. Yeah, I was talking to Donna tonight. I didn't know you listened to all these. Wow. Anyway, it's a small world. Janice, she's a fun gal. I'm just saying. None of you know her, but if you did, you'd probably like her. All right. Martha, this is from Martha Duke. It said, it would be a shame if this old 1998 video of Nancy Pelosi got retweeted all over Twitter. Now, why would she want this retweeted all over Twitter? Well, let's listen to it and see if it corresponds to anything that might be going on presently. Yeah, it's only 1 minute and 24 seconds. You know, I hate to have you listen to Nancy Pelosi, but sometimes it's necessary. So let's suck it up.
The Republican majority is not judging the president with fairness, but impeaching him with a vengeance. In the investigation of the president, fundamental principles which Americans hold dear, privacy, fairness, checks and balances, have been seriously violated. And why? Because we are here today because the Republicans in the House are paralyzed with hatred.
Because the Republicans in the House are paralyzed with hatred. Now, this is the impeachment of Bill Clinton. Okay, so that is the background on this. So she says, we're here today because the Republicans in the House are paralyzed with hatred.
Because the Republicans in the House are paralyzed with hatred of President Clinton, and until the Republicans free themselves of this hatred, our country will suffer. I rise to oppose.
Wow, they're paralyzed with this hatred. Until they get rid of this hatred, the country will suffer. Huh. Interesting.
These unfair motions which call for the removal of the President of the United States from office, and in doing so wish to point out some differences between the investigation of the President and the investigation of Newt Gingrich. The first principle in our investigation of Newt Gingrich was that at the moment we found exculpatory information, it would be reported immediately to the accused and be made public. The independent counsel knew that the president was exonerated when Travelgate, Whitewater, and Filegate, and he held that information until the hearing, indeed until after the election. This was not fair. Indeed, it is the responsibility of any prosecutor to immediately release information that is exculpatory.
Oh, did they do that for President Trump? Release any information that was exculpatory? Of course not. Oh my gosh, this just blew me away when I saw this. First of all, she actually can speak coherently here for the most part. So anyway, I can see now why she is a politician and has been a politician for a long time, because back then she was not stumbling around and unable to speak as she is now. But it struck me as a little bit ironic that she's saying this, and really, if you just switch a few names around, it could apply today to the Democrats and to the situation with Trump. So I found that very interesting, to say the least. Now, let's go back, because we've got more. We've always got more. All right, let's look at this. From the Gateway Pundit. Oh, look, Tiger Woods, controversial drug problem exposed. Oh, no. Breaking, exclusive, fired FBI Director Comey likely doctored his memos in effort to take down President Trump, and the U.S. Senate may have the evidence. So this is from today, hot off the press. It doesn't get any more new. The news doesn't get any newer than that. Well, unless it just came out a minute or so ago, but this is close enough. So, yeah, let's get into this. The Gateway Pundit reported on May 25th that the infamous Trump Tower meeting in early January 2017 may have initiated the Trump obstruction investigation. Then, we reported on August 3rd that text messages from Peter Strzok to Lisa Page showed that Mueller's special counsel in its first month was already working on an obstruction trap for President Trump to step in. Then we reported the following day on August 4th that a further analysis indicated that the entire obstruction trap started with Comey's notes that were likely doctored by Comey for use by the Mueller gang. The Mueller gang. Today we can report that the U.S. Senate may have Comey's original memos used by the FBI to open the FBI's Trump obstruction case, which likely differ from the final memos Comey provided a few weeks later to Mueller's special counsel gang. And they were a gang indeed. We reported in early August that Representative Devin Nunes, in an interview on Fox News, said the following: what we really need to know from Mueller is, when did he know about collusion? You know, whether or not it was true. I say it had to have been right when he walked in that door. He may have wanted to check a few things, but I think a larger question is on obstruction of justice. The obstruction of justice was about Comey's memos, that he had fired Comey. What I'm trying to say, I said on your podcast last week, I think what the American people need to understand is this investigation is not about collusion, even though they say it was. It wasn't about obstruction of justice, because that was about the firing of Comey. I believe what it was they set an obstruction of justice trap that lasted for the better part of 2 years. As we reported, on August 3rd, in less than a month after the Mueller special counsel was created, the Mueller gang was already working on their obstruction efforts against the president. Cat be gone. Not cat be gone. Yes, it is cat be gone. I don't really want the cat gone. I just want her behaviors gone. So, all right. Sorry for the interruption. Let's continue. Was already working on their obstruction efforts against the president. Our further review indicated that Comey memos were the key to Mueller obstruction trap per Representative Nunes, and they likely were edited by Comey. Also, the trigger for the Trump obstruction trap investigation was the infamous meeting at Trump Tower in early 2017. Now, in our May, I hate when that does that, but I'll get over it. In our May 25th post, we shared the following. The far-left Washington Post in 2017 reported that the Mueller team was investigating President Trump for obstruction as well as collusion. Donald Trump is reportedly being investigated for potential obstruction of justice by the special counsel looking into Russia's interference in the 2016 presidential election. This marks the first time that the investigation, which has hung over Trump since his inauguration, has potentially implicated implicated the president himself. The Washington Post reported on Wednesday night that the federal investigation into the Trump campaign's ties with Russia during the 2016 campaign, being overseen by Robert Mueller, has now expanded into whether the president attempted to thwart that investigation. Trump tweeted early on Thursday morning, "They made up a phony collusion with the Russian story, found zero proof, so now they go for obstruction of justice on the phony story." Nice. He later repeated his claims that such investigations were a witch hunt, that's exactly what they were and continue to be. However, it was not known that an investigation into obstruction was underway by the FBI. It was not known that an investigation into obstruction was underway at the FBI by this time. According to a transcript released in May from a closed-door hearing, the Mueller team noted that an investigation into whether President-elect and then President Trump obstructed justice starting long before the Mueller investigation was created. Oy, it's one of those nights. All right. So, and it says before the appointment of the special counsel on May 17th, the FBI had opened an investigation into obstruction of justice. That investigation entailed matters that were covered in the Comey memoranda, which explored and recorded Mr. Comey's recollections of the meetings, including one-on-one meetings with the President of the United States. In those meetings, events occurred that led the FBI to conclude that an investigation was appropriate under its authority to consider matters such as obstruction of justice. Based on these testimonies, the FBI opened its investigation into obstruction as a result of former FBI Director James Comey's meeting with President Trump, which were memorialized in Comey's memos. These appear to be the same memos that Comey took and leaked to the media before the Mueller team was created, which may have led to the Mueller investigation. Comey's memorandums cover his interactions with President Trump. It is unknown if Comey ever took notes from his discussions with President Obama. One of the first meetings between President-elect Trump and Comey took place on January 6, 2017, before the inauguration at Trump Tower. It wasn't that the inauguration was at Trump Tower. This just isn't written properly. It was before the inauguration, and the meeting took place at Trump Tower. Sorry, but all the editors have apparently died. If the obstruction investigation into Trump started from the early January meeting before the president was even in office, was it legit? Did President-elect Trump even have the authority to obstruct? Was this the real reason for the Trump Tower meeting? Rosenstein's first special counsel mandate was not clear about Trump being charged with obstruction of justice at the time the investigation began. Here's how it was hidden in Rosenstein's order. Any links and or coordination between the Russian government and individuals associated with the campaign of President Donald Trump, and 2, any matters that arose or may arise directly from the investigation, and 3, any other matters within the scope of 28 CFR 600.4a. Rosenstein and the deep state didn't want President Trump to know that he had been investigated for, or that he was being investigated for obstruction. They wanted to catch him in an act that they could claim was obstruction. So they hid their attempt to catch him obstructing. So they had planned to catch him obstructing. They had set the trap for him, and then they wanted to catch him in an act that the trap was so they could catch him in an act of obstructing, so that, they would have him. And they hid their attempts to catch him obstructing. Well, of course they hid their attempts because they wanted to catch him doing it. Which, how did that work out for them? Not too well. It says in the Mueller document noted above, the lawyer representing Mueller states that 28 CFR 600.4 covers the Mueller gang's efforts to catch Trump obstructing justice. Committee appearance that he made, as well as matters arose from or may arise from that investigation, and matters that are covered by 28 CFR 600.4, that section of the special counsel regulations authorized the special counsel to look into matters that would interfere with the investigation being conducted, including obstruction of justice. These people like, now that we know that this was set up way before he took office, and they have been setting traps for him, and they've been falling in their own hole. It's like they dig a they dig a hole for Trump and they fall in it. That's exactly what keeps happening. So this is what the 28 CFR 600.4 actually states. A, original jurisdiction. The jurisdiction of a special counsel shall be established by the Attorney General. The special counsel will be provided with a specific factual statement of the matter to be investigated. The jurisdiction of a special counsel shall also include the authority to investigate and prosecute federal crimes committed in the course of and with intent to interfere with the special counsel's investigation, such as perjury, obstruction of justice, destruction of evidence, and intimidation of witnesses, and to conduct appeals arising out of the matter being investigated and or prosecuted. By noting the regulation rather than the wording of the regulation, especially in reference to obstruction, Rosenstein hid from plain sight the fact that the FBI was already investigating President Trump for obstruction. Unbelievable. In April 2018, Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein told President Trump in a private meeting that he was not a target of any special counsel that he was not a target of any part of special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation. As noted in the minutes from the closed-door meeting above, this was clearly a lie. Well, should that be so surprising? In less than a month after the Mueller special counsel was created, the Mueller gang was already working on their obstruction efforts against the president. The following text between the corrupt lovers, Strzok and Page, occurred on June 7th, 2017. 5:05 p.m. Peter Strzok text. Unless you've got something going, I would. We're starting obstruction team brief, but just come, sit in on whatever comes next. 5:06 p.m. Lisa Page text. I mean, I've got lots of work to do, but okay, who's in it? 5:08 p.m. Peter Strzok text. Don't then. I'm just saying, come over here and stick your head in. I've gotten more the past couple of days after hours talking with Aaron Zebley and whoever that name is redacted, than all day the past week and a half. Was not suggesting it for any particular reason, just a dive in sort of thing. If you have work to do, I'd say do it. 7:06 p.m. Lisa Page text. I left. F it. There's no amount of time I can spend and finish everything. Whatevs. Then on August 4th, we reported Judicial Watch uncovered the evidence that the FBI went to Comey's house on June 7th. This visit took place the day before Comey admitted leaking the Trump memos to his friend turned lawyer turned unpaid FBI official Daniel Richman, who then leaked the comments of the memos to the New York Times. I asked a friend of mine to share the content of the memo with a reporter for the New York Times. I asked him to because I thought that might prompt the appointment of a special counsel, Comey said before the Senate Intelligence Committee on June 8th, 2017. One of the problems with the FBI obtaining Comey's memos on June 7th is that the FBI had stated that they already had obtained the Comey memos in May. Well, those boys have trouble keeping everything straight, don't they? All right. The New York Times published a report on May 16th, 2017, based on Comey's memo related to this conversation with Trump about General Flynn, and the next day Mueller was appointed as special counsel. Of course, Comey's memos were classified material that he never should have taken off FBI premises and should have been kept very secure and not leaked. Note yesterday, the IG's Comey report stated that these memos were not labeled classified, which prevented Comey from being indicted for felonies related to his actions. Also, it appears someone is lying about when the FBI obtained the Comey memos. And as we heard yesterday, Comey doctored those memos so that the classification came off of it. So, it didn't specifically say they were classified because Comey doctored them. But maybe the corrupt FBI is telling only part of the story. Comey's memos were leaked and used to create the Mueller investigation. Comey provided the Mueller gang memos that he likely edited the day before he spoke to the Senate, and the Mueller gang used this information as the basis for their efforts in setting up President Trump in an obstruction trap. Nice people, aren't they? Text messages between corrupt FBI lovers Strzok and Page show them on June 7th, 2017, the day the FBI now reports that they received Comey's memos, discussing where the memos were at. They also discussed their obstruction of justice case. This is less than a month since the Mueller investigation was created. The Mueller gang, including Strzok and Page, were sitting around after lunch waiting for something. They discuss the Comey memos and then ask where they are physically located. Within a few hours, the Mueller gang is discussing their obstruction of justice trap against the president, which indicates that the Comey memos were what the entire obstruction of justice trap was built on. It looks like this is why they lied to the FISA court. They were trying to build a case against the president that was all about obstruction of justice charges from the very get-go, and Comey's memos were the key. Judicial Watch states that there were 4 memos picked up at Comey's house on June 7th. I know that this is very long. I understand that, and I can appreciate that people get fatigued with a lot of information coming at them, but this is really important, and especially for the things that are going to be happening in the next, I'd say, week or so. So it's very good for us to understand this. On June 7th at approximately 10:15 a.m., Federal Bureau of Investigations, FBI special agents, redacted, collected memos as evidence from James Comey at his residence at redacted. The memos collected described as follows. One memo dated February 4th, 2 pages. One memo dated March 30th. Okay, well, we don't need all that. Our research shows that these memos were the only memos related to discussions between Comey and President Trump when no others were in attendance. The other memos had individuals present, which prevented Comey from editing. Interesting. These 4 memos picked up on June 7th by the FBI at Comey's house look like they were related to discussions between James Comey and the president alone. 4:15 p.m., Trump, James Comey, private Flynn Oval Office meeting. I hope you can see your way clear to letting this go, to letting Flynn go. He is a good guy. I hope you can let this go. 8:13 a.m., Trump, James Comey phone call regarding refusal to publicly say Trump not under investigation. 8:26, Trump calls Comey, requests that Comey announces Trump is not under investigation. Comey refers Trump to Dana Boente. 6:30 p.m., Trump, James Comey, loyalty dinner held in the green room. Note that we make the assumption that the memo related to February 4th is really related to February 14th, and the FBI either lied, committed an error, or are hiding something else from the American public. Comey didn't resubmit any of those conversations he held with others present, only those when he was alone with the president. How convenient. Remember also that President Trump warned Comey about leaking documents to the press because there might be tapes of these conversations on May 12th, 2017. On June 23rd, 2017, the president tweeted that he did not have tapes of the conversations, but he did know if anyone else, i.e. Comey, had tapes. And this is it from June 22nd, with all of the recently reported electronic surveillance, intercepts, unmasking, and illegal leaking of information. I have no idea, whether there are tapes or recordings of my conversations with James Comey, but I did not make and do not have any such recordings. The deep state and Mueller gang realized by June 7th that the president didn't have tapes of his discussions with Comey. If there were tapes, they held them and not the president. So on June 7th, Comey likely gave updated memos to the Mueller gang that were more damning to the president than his previous memos. See why this It's unbelievable, I'm telling you. These updated memos were what the Mueller gang used in their attempts to entrap the President of the United States. We later learned from the IG's report regarding Comey's memos and his related corrupt actions that the memos that Comey took home were all not labeled classified, but the memos that Comey left with the FBI were labeled classified. This prevented Comey from being prosecuted for his many actions surrounding how he handled his memos. However, he is the one that took off that classified classification or whatever, they do write classified on it. He removed it. These documents, which Comey considered his personal property, were all involved in the deep state's obstruction trap investigation into the President of the United States. We also know from Representative Nunes that the Inspector General found that he, Comey, was acting as part of the investigation. So Comey himself was involved with the investigation. That's not written. So Comey himself was involved with the investigation, but I guess we understand what they mean. As noted above, in our May 25th, 2019 post, the FBI opened an investigation into President Trump's obstruction of justice on May 17th, 2017. The investigation entailed matters that were covered in the Comey memo. Note that this is all before Comey handed over his final reports to the special counsel on June 7th, 2017. Before the appointment of the special counsel on May 17th, the FBI has opened an investigation into obstruction of justice. That investigation entailed matters that were covered in the Comey memoranda, which explored and recorded Mr. Comey's recollections of meetings, including one-on-one meetings with the President of the United States. In those meetings, events occurred that led the FBI to conclude that an investigation was appropriate under its authority to consider matters such as obstruction of justice. But they had planned on catching him in that way back. Unbelievable. We've also retrieved text messages between FBI crooks Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. One item of note is highlighted in red, SVC 217. These texts were shared on May 17, 2017, the day the FBI opened its obstruction of justice case on President Trump. This is 2017, May 17th, 3:52 p.m. Strzok to FBI text. Have you back by 4:20? Hey, let's go. I'm not sure what that means. Hey, have you 05:17? Well, that's the date. I don't know. Back by 4:20. Hey, let's go. 3:57 p.m. Strzok to FBI text. One note on outline. We put no detail on redacted. Does McCabe FBI have left-right limits on that? Oh, okay. I get it now. Okay, I know how they're writing it now. So 3:52, Strzok texts the FBI and says, have you back by 4:20? Hey, let's go. And Strzok to the FBI texts again, one note on outline. We put no detail on redacted. Does McCabe FBI have left-right limits on that? 4:30 p.m. Strzok to FBI text. OCA is driving you, right? And Strzok to FBI. I know you're literally maxed out. You're going to do great. You're really, really good at your job. We're going to all come out on the other side. 4:52 p.m. Strzok to FBI text. He says to date, it's a little inhaled, but it's clearly not today, especially given context. Strzok to FBI text, just question mark. I don't know. That whole conversation doesn't mean anything to me. I don't know. And Lisa Page to FBI to remember I don't know. Note to myself. Anyway, from the Freedom of Information Act documents recently received by Judicial Watch, we found an important piece of information that ties all this together. The U.S. Senate requested an update on documents related to Russia's interference with the 2016 election. The information was requested by Democrat Senator Warner. In his request, he gives specific instructions on how to provide classified information to the Senate. At the bottom of their request are the following instructions. Note, SCR, RD, or FRD material must be delivered to the Office of Senate Security in SVC 217 for storage. Classified materials. Okay, so, and this is the note here. So, what this indicates is that on May 17th, the same day, the corrupt FBI opened up its obstruction of justice investigation into President Trump, the FBI, Lisa Page, delivered classified documents to the Senate. The problem for the deep state is that, one, this is very important, one, their obstruction investigation covered matters entailed in the Comey memos. Two, the FBI delivered documents to the Senate that no doubt included their information related to their obstruction of justice case as of May 17, 2017. 3. Fired FBI Director James Comey provided his final memos to the FBI on June 7, 2017, after he learned that President Trump did not tape their conversation. 4. Comey likely edited his final memos from the previous memos maintained by the FBI. 5. The U.S. Senate may have the original memos from Comey that may be different from his final memos, which would prove Comey committed fraud in his final memos used by the Mueller gang. Whew! The whole Russia collusion scam was a setup. Deep State was betting on President Trump obstructing their criminal investigation. Instead, he didn't, and their sham was finally shut down. This is the most corrupt event in U.S. history, and James Comey was in the middle of it, just like he was in the middle of the Hillary exoneration. The falsified Comey memos may have been more important to the Mueller hoax than the fake Steele dossier. There may be evidence that shows Comey doctored his memos in an effort to indict President Trump. No kidding. I believe that. I believe it entirely. And that was such a good sum up, and I think it's very important because I think there's a lot of things breaking loose in the next week. That's what I think. Now, maybe next week you'll say, "Well, I don't know," and maybe so. I don't have a crystal coconut that I can look in and tell the future, but that's what I feel. All right, now let's go on because that took us a long time, and we've got a lot to get to. All right. Now, this is interesting. This aired the same night as the ISIS leader was killed, okay? And I'm talking about al-Baghdadi, not the one that was killed today. So let's look at this. It says, oops, Saturday Night Live airs this sketch thanking Trump for bringing jobs back to ISIS, while on this very same night, the Trump administration is killing the leader of ISIS. Yeah, that didn't age too well, did it? So let's just.
Excuse me, please.
Oh,
so
thank
great to see a young Trump supporter. Oh,
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you.
and where are you from? So New Mexico?
ISIS. Yeah, I was a prisoner in Syria until last week when you freed me. So I just wanted to say thank you for bringing jobs back to ISIS. And I promise that I will make ISIS great again.
Who's next? You, sir, please.
Yeah. Now, that didn't age well, did it? And I am so glad. They deserve that. But what are the odds that that would air the same night that they're actually killing the leader of ISIS? Bad luck on their part, I guess. Trump curse. You can blame a lot of stuff on the Trump curse. All right. Now, let's go down here. Yeah, and this, remember when I was talking about the burial at sea, and a couple people kind of questioned me on that in the comments, not rudely or anything, but they were saying, well, they hadn't heard that. But here from Breaking 911, Baghdadi's remains disposed of at sea by U.S. military, AFP, citing Pentagon source. So yes, he was indeed disposed of at sea, apparently. So, of course, none of us were there. So we don't know for absolute certain. In fact, there's very little that we know for absolute certain because everything is faked, it seems. I don't know if that was faked, there's probably a very good reason for it. But as it stands right now, that is the official word. All right. Now, I'm going to, let's hit on this. House to take first vote on Trump impeachment inquiry this week, supposedly to happen Thursday. Not a smart move. Really not a smart move. They're backed into a corner now. So this was from yesterday. Washington, House Democrats have decided to hold a formal vote on impeachment proceedings against President Trump, a step they had resisted for several weeks, and one that will provide the first public test of sentiment in the House on the divisive issue. The vote could come as early as Thursday, Democratic leaders said. Enough Democrats have publicly said that they support the inquiry, which has been underway since late September, that the outcome is not significantly in doubt, but each side will be watching to see how many defections the others suffer. At this point, all but a handful of the 234 Democrats in the House have indicated they support at least an inquiry into whether Trump has committed an impeachable offense. So has one independent, Representative Justin Amash of Michigan, who left Republican ranks because of his opposition to Trump's actions. Early in the process, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi sought to shield Democrats from swing districts from voting on the issue, as support for the inquiry has grown among Democratic voters. That has stopped being a concern, although some of the details of the resolution and what rights it might give to the Republican minority have remained an issue. None of the 197 Republicans have said publicly that they back an inquiry, although several have indicated that they would be open to supporting one. Whether any of them will be willing to break ranks on a formal vote remains unknown, and the White House and Republican leaders immediately began trying to discourage defections by casting the vote as too little, too late. The impeachment inquiry centers on Trump's actions towards Ukraine. So far, House investigators have taken depositions. All right, I'm not going to go further with this. I just wanted you to know. You'd have to be living under a rock to not know, but this is obviously a very biased news source. So I don't want to continue with this because I don't want to be helping them spread that crap. Now, obviously, the basics of it are right. Yes, they're going to be having a vote on Thursday. So let's move on from there. I don't want to even give air to that crap. So that's the technical term now, crap. All right, let's go back. Now, I think this is going to be very, very interesting. But actually, before we get into that, I'm going to get into this right here. Right here, because we've got more good news. Trump says on Twitter that al-Baghdadi's presumed replacement as ISIS head has been killed. That's news as of today at 2:34 p.m. President Donald Trump tweeted Tuesday that American troops have terminated ISIS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi's likely replacement. Just confirmed that Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi's #1 replacement has been terminated by American troops, most likely would have taken the top spot. Now he's dead, Trump tweeted. A U.S. official told CNN that president was referring to ISIS spokesperson Abu Hassan al-Muhajir. I'm not sure. I can't pronounce these names. A senior State Department official told reporters Monday that al-Muhajir was killed by U.S. forces in Aleppo province near Jarablus. He was killed very close to the northeast, very close to the Euphrates River near Jarablus. The official said he was killed by U.S. forces. The official described Muhajir as both a spokesperson and a kind of number 2 to Baghdadi. Mazloum Abdi, the general commander of Syrian Democratic Forces, also said Monday that al-Muhajir was killed in a coordinated operation between the U.S. military and SDF intelligence officers near Jarablus in northern Syria. The White House and National Security Council did not say whether it is accurate that American troops were responsible for the death. The Pentagon said it has nothing to provide beyond the president's tweet. What remains of ISIS, the so-called Islamic State in Iraq and Syria, is yet to acknowledge the death of Baghdadi, who was killed in a raid by U.S. forces in northern Syria on Saturday. At this early stage, it's not clear who will succeed him, especially now with the death of al-Muhajir, but a longtime Baghdadi companion and religious scholar would seem to be a leading candidate. He is known within jihadi circles as Abdallah Qardash, but the U.S. government identifies him as Amir Muhammad Saeed Abdal Rahman al-Mawla, and is thought to have known Baghdadi for at least 15 years. Boy, that is a mouthful, man. They were both detained at a U.S.-run prison known as Camp Bucca soon after the coalition's invasion of Iraq in 2003, although it's unclear if that's where they first met. In August, it was widely reported that ISIS-affiliated Amaq news agency had announced al-Mawla as Baghdadi's appointed successor, but the announcement came from a fabricated account, and it would certainly not have been ISIS modus operandi to issue such a statement. Last month, the U.S. added al-Mawla to its rewards for justice list, offering up to $5 million for information leading to his capture, and saying that as one of ISIS' most senior ideologues, he is a potential successor to ISIS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. So, and here is Donald Trump's tweet, just confirmed that Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi's #1 replacement has been terminated by American troops, most likely would have taken the top spot. Now, he is also dead. So, I think that is it for that. And there doesn't seem to be any additional information in the news, so perhaps they are not done. Perhaps there are raids or whatever ongoing. I don't know, but it seems odd that we don't have the information about that when we do have so much information about Baghdadi, but there is obviously a reason for that. Now, let's go here. And let me just, let me do this. This is a good place to go then, right here. All right. Now, this is interesting. I don't know what else to say about it. It's interesting, it's gobsmacking, it's thought-provoking. So let's look at it. This by 40 Head. 1. Wow, what if Trump needed to nail down al-Baghdadi's location? POTUS knew withdrawing troops from Syria would spark an uproar and ISIS would be emboldened. Because deep state ties have been cut with Syria and ISIS, someone had to get a message to al-Baghdadi in person. Trek with me through this because it's fascinating. But who could go there while missiles and bombs were being lobbed across international borders by multiple countries? So Trump manages to get both sides to agree to a ceasefire. If someone is going to meet with al-Baghdadi, they would have to go during a ceasefire, because nobody in their right mind would go when there was not a ceasefire. 3. Completely unannounced, Pelosi and Schiff, both deep state traitors, both CIA, suddenly head to the Middle East. I wondered about that too. Do you understand the significance of this timing? If there was no troop pullout and if a ceasefire had not been arranged, Pelosi and Schiff would not have gone. Trek with me. Somehow, according to the New York Times, al-Baghdadi's location is learned while Pelosi and Schiff are in the sandbox. Understand this, folks. Al-Baghdadi's location was discovered while Pelosi and Schiff were on the ground in the Middle East. Coincidence, right? Now, if that's true, why would the president tell Pelosi that he was going to go in and get Baghdadi? He wouldn't. 5. Trump issues command authority to take out al-Baghdadi last week, perhaps while Pelosi and Schiff were still in country. It looks like al-Baghdadi may have may have been compromised by the very traitors involved with supporting him during Obama's administration. How freaking poetic. You can say that again. How freaking poetic. I did say it again. During Trump's press conference on taking out al-Baghdadi, he was asked if he notified Pelosi or anyone in Congress about the planned mission. Trump stated directly that he did not tell Pelosi because he didn't want any leaks getting out or any Americans getting hurt. Boom. Trump knows Pelosi is a traitor and that Congress can't be trusted. It only goes to confirm that my theory here bears weight. How is it that all these coincidences occurred at just the right time? If my theory is right, then it was the perfect setup and the perfect trap. If I'm right, it's also what was needed to draw al-Baghdadi or one of his confidants out into the open. It worked. It was noted by USA Today that Trump praised the intelligence community for their work in finding al-Baghdadi, but never once did Trump mention the CIA. That's true. That didn't prevent the New York Times from assuming and giving much of the credit for the intel to the CIA, but Trump never actually stated who the intel came from. Remember, Q said, why go around three-letter agencies? Because they're compromised. Why go around three-letter agencies? Because so many traitors and leakers were in those agencies. And this is the actual Q post that he is referring to. 10, this is an old Q post. No, there are no new Q posts. And would you look at that? Delta Force performed this operation. What did we recently learn about Delta Force? They're part of a very special group that is home to the Northern Virginia Army. 800 intel officers who report to Trump and to Q. We were introduced to Lieutenant General Paul Nakasone in Drop 1268, 1 + 2 + 6 + 8 = 17. He became the new director of the NSA and Cyberspace Command when Admiral Mike Rogers retired. You will see through this thread, it appears he also, hate when it does that. You will see that it also appears he also served with General Flynn. Interesting stuff, isn't it? And here is Q post 1268, and it says, did you know? Quiet. Army Lieutenant General Paul Nakasone? Good. Q. Now, so again, this is all just theory, looking from the big picture in, but in case evidence surfaces that Pelosi or Schiff are exposed as having passed info to al-Baghdadi, you can say, hey, QAnon was tossing that theory around. If it's wrong, it's on me. Trump credited the intelligence community, but he never said which one. Notice there were 0 leaks about the mission. That means military intelligence. Here's the USA Today article I referenced. Well, we're not going to go into that. Again, I stress this is an outside looking in perspective of what can only be described as compelling coincidence. However, how many coincidences must occur before it becomes mathematically impossible to simply be a coincidence? You make your own conclusions. God bless. So, and it's interesting, this person says, I agree with most of this theory as it is the one I have had since the beginning. My only question is, why would they go to Middle East when Trump didn't tell them the plan? I think that's the point. He knew they would go. They had to. All other forms of communication could be intercepted. So, yeah, I don't know, but I think that he's on to something here. And I really do. because it makes perfect sense. They could not communicate any other way. So they went to the Middle East during a ceasefire because they needed to get a message to al-Baghdadi. Very fascinating stuff here. And if that turns out to be true, which I think it will, because it seems that when they went in there, they got all sorts of information. And there's rumors now that they discovered a cable. I don't understand how this works, but it went right directly to the U.S. State Department. So, yeah, I don't know about that. At this point, it's a rumor, but it is, I don't know. It's not just a rumor started by, it's out there in the community. All right. So let's go back here. I think actually what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop, and this will be the end of this video, but I'm going to come back for a second video because I've got so much stuff here tonight. I won't even get through it in 2 videos, but I will do my best to get as much information to you as I possibly can. All right. Let's call that a night then. A night. And you guys, I hope to see you back anyway for the second video. And stay safe, stay well, stay blessed, and keep seeking truth.